Hi y'all, Jeff back here with Jeff's Cars. And so this will be a little bit different kind of a video here. Actually a two-parter, so to speak. But wanted to bring to your attention that on the 280 SEL, I've been working on trying to shine up the ashtray. And you probably see here, and I've gotten the wood. This took a lot of abuse because it kept going in and out of the dash. But you know, for a 50-year-old ashtray, I think I've got it shined up probably about as good as I can possibly get. But we'll leave it at that. Obviously, I could never say this car was a non-smoker car, but because it was smoked in. People smoked back in the 70s. So there's the ashtray put back together. And then, of course, I think in a previous video you saw the glove box door. I've got the key, the lock all put back on. And, that turned out beautiful. Now, the problem is the ashtray and the door. The wood is still the same, but I couldn't get them to match perfectly, by sanding, because I did not put any stain on them. I just used a crystal clear lacquer on both parts. So it is what it is. That's the best way I can do it, because it is 50-year-old wood. Now, also here in front of me, I have the door pieces, and the problem with these is these have taken. Well, this is what they look like beforehand. That's what it looks like, and that one I'll probably try and sand down. But see, it's several layers have come off, and I don't know if I'm going to be able to, get because it is a kind of a layered veneer. It wasn't a solid piece of wood like I thought it would be. This is, and the glove box is, or the ashtray is a solid piece of wood. But this is kind of a veneered, layered veneer, and so I'm having trouble getting the lacquer to really look good. This probably has 3-4 coats of lacquer on it, and same with this one. But as you see, these have been in the door and they've been wet. They've gotten wet over time to time, so they're not coming out like I would like. They match fairly well to the glove box door, but they're just not. I'm going to have to probably rebuild them myself. So, more to come on that. It's just, I don't know what I'm going to do. I'm going to have to take, some walnut wood and actually shape it, cut it. I'm going to use solid wood, but then again, these have got a curve to them because of the metal framing of the door, and then the one that goes over the top of the door down the side on the back doors, those got a lot of curve to them. So there's the progress on the interior of the 280 SEL 4.5. Now, I've gotten some comments and emails and things like that regarding, the quality, the longevity, and about Mercedes-Benz, and as everybody knows, I like the Mercedes-Benz automobile. Obviously, I've got several of them, and so went and did a little research. And if you were a buyer of let's say you were a buyer looking at a 4-year-old Mercedes on a dealership lot, which ones, and again today, the SUV, because all the car manufacturers are pretty much getting rid of the sedan cars, most what's being sold is SUVs. Now, EVs and things like that are coming up, and again in the SUV, you've got the the Ford Mustang, which is a EV crossover SUV. I don't know, whatever you want to call that thing. And several of the car manufacturers are starting to come up with EV SUVs because the demand on the sedan cars just keeps dropping, at least in the United States. So here's what I found as far as the small, the luxury, and where this is specifically luxury SUVs, and this was rated by Edmunds on the number one, the top one or two, or even and on the number the five, I went down to, or the large SUVs went to the down five. And so Edmunds ranked, and this is kind of odd, or these I don't think are odd because I think that there's some good quality. If you were to buy a 4-year-old, and this is overall quality, this is overall longevity, cost of ownership, several different ratings. For the small SUV class, small luxury SUV class, number one, believe it or not, is a Mercedes-Benz GLC. Now, new, and we're talking, these are 2021s. New, they were around 44,000. Today, 4 years later, you could probably get one for around 32,000, depending on, and it'll be average miles. So 4 years old, you're looking at a 70,000 mile vehicle. The number two was the Acura RDX. New, it was 43,000, and you would end up spending about 32,000 on that as well. So the midsize SUV rates, Edmunds rates the Mercedes GLE, and I've talked about the GLE quite a bit. The E-Class Mercedes has always been one of their more reliable models, and so the on the GLE new in 2021, it was in the based on options, but the average was 59,000. You're going to spend probably 47,000 or so with the average miles and so on and so forth. And number two, which is really odd, is the Porsche Cayenne. Brand new was 78,000, and you're going to spend about 63,000 at a dealer on that SUV. I thought that one being pretty odd, but Porsche's quality is improving apparently from some of the other research that I've done. Now we're going to get into the large SUVs, and this is in the category of the Escalade, the Navigator, and so on and so forth. As we all know, I've got the GL350 of 2015, and it's 10 years old. The GL series, but Edmunds rates, the Mercedes is number one in the GLS series. New in 2021 was around 85,000. You're going to pay probably around 65,000, and a lot of these, that I'm mentioning are you're going to probably end up buying them, at a Mercedes store, and they'll be, probably certified pre-owned. I mean, there's a lot of things that fall into play on those, and most of these will be just out of warranty in most cases. But you'll pay for a used, a 4-year-old GLS around 65,000. Number two on the list, brand new, was the for $94,000 would be the Lincoln Navigator, and used for a 4-year-old Lincoln Navigator, you're going to pay about $57,000 for it. Now, that goes to show you that the Mercedes and the European cars are holding their value a little bit better, with the exception of the next one. Number 3 was a $59,000 Audi Q7. Um, it's ranked number 3, but if you were to buy a 4-year-old one, in the average condition, and this is all going to depend on where you're at in the country too. I mean, it could be higher on the east and west coast. It could be lower in the Midwest. But for the number 3 ranked $59,000 Audi Q7, you're going to pay about $39,000. So the Mercedes is holding its value, the Navigator drops in value, and the Audi theoretically drops in value as well. There's a big spread from new to used. The next one, a 4-year-old Cadillac Escalade, brand new, was in the $84,000, and they go up even more, a little bit more than that. But the average new Cadillac Escalade in 2021 was $84,000, and this is surprising that to buy a used one, and again, this is going to be very, based. It's different parts of the country are going to dictate, the price of it. But a used one, 4-year-old, somewhere in the neighborhood of $70,000 to $75,000. So it's actually holding its value a little bit better than the Mercedes. And then last in the top 5 of the large SUVs is the BMW X7, and new it would have been $79,000. Used now is around $55,000. So how Edmunds came up with ranking the Mercedes SUVs number 1 for 2021. For 2025 in 4-year-old SUV value. So that's a pretty interesting list. Now, since I'm a Mercedes guy, and I'm probably gonna promote Mercedes and Mercedes-Benz. If you want to, pay me for my, the support I give you. We look back, on which ones to buy and so on and so forth. And the collectible market is kind of unusual. And so I dug back in, and I'm a member of the Haggerty, the Collector Car Club, because I've got several cars that I'm insuring through Haggerty. But in 2019, they came out with a list of 6 Mercedes to buy, sell, or hold. And it's interesting that back, and this is again in 2019. So this was, we're coming up on 2025. So this was 5-6 years ago. So one of them to buy was the 63 to 67 230 SL. That's interesting. And it's that year range. They gave it a vehicle rating of 21. I'm going to go along with that, I guess, because they weren't as popular, and the production wasn't up there as the next one. And the next one they said to buy was the 73 to 80 450 SL. Now, and these are specific models, because remember in the Pagoda, I'm going back to the Pagoda one, the 63 to 67 230 SL, that came with the 280 SL, and there's various different variations of the Pagoda Mercedes, and I love that car. I mean, that car, if I could find one that was reasonable, that I could afford, that one would be another one I'd like to have on my collection. But they recommended in 2019 to buy the 73 to 80 450 SL. Now, that's the R107, and I have one, but mine doesn't fall into that category. I have a 72 350 SL, which is theoretically a 450 SL. Because it has the same engine configuration and everything. The difference being is I've got the Euro bumpers on my 350 SL. It has the same motor, same transmission, but then if you remember when I kind of went around mine, mine doesn't have the power windows. It doesn't have the wood trim in the dash, which some 450 SLs do and some don't. It's just a vinyl cover, but without power windows. And so that one they gave a rating of 33. Now, back in 2019, Haggerty recommended you sell your 450 SLC, the two-door, four-seat coupe version of the same car. Don't know why back then, but to me that was kind of strange. But okay, again, that's just and that's their opinion back then. I think the car is still somewhat popular. Although if you're putting the in the R107, if you've got the SL and the SLC side by side, the SL of equal condition, the SL is going to bring between $2,000 and $7,000 more because the popularity of it was much better. Another one that they said to sell, and probably because you were able to get money out of it, get a fair amount of money out of it in 2019, is the 190 SL, the 55 to 63. They were rating that as a 21. Don't know why. It's probably because maybe it was at its peak in value. I really don't know. But then moving on, they stated to hold on the 94 to 2002 SL600. That's the R129. Now I've got the 300 SL, the 91 in that same R129. But they had a rating of 90 on that. So they must think in 2019, and that was kind of the reason I bought mine, is because I think that the future is going to dictate that car is going to bring some decent money. And I've seen a few of those out on Marketplace that people are trying to think that they're worth a lot right now. But I've seen one down in Kansas that a red one, an SL. Actually, it was a 500 SL, and he's been trying to get 10 grand out of the thing for the last 18 months. It's been advertised on Facebook Marketplace. It's just not worth that yet. But and they're going to have over 100,000 miles on them as well. But the SL600, because it's got the V12, they jammed that V12 in that engine compartment. They're a very fast and very good performing car. And then the last one that they're saying to hold on is the W140 S600 Coupe. Now that car is an interesting car. Because again, they're throwing that V10 or V12 engine in there, but in that era of Mercedes, there was some electronic issues. In the 94s, in the W140, they used the biodegradable harness. It's very expensive to change the harness to one that doesn't fall apart. So it's kind of odd that that both of those are in the hold status. So I just wanted to bring that up just to see what's taking place now, because nobody can predict the future and what goes to the auction. And it's all a matter of taste. The most recent Mecum auction, you'd think my buddy, my former late a friend of mine that passed away not too long ago always thought the Cadillac Alante would be one that would excel in value, and I did too. because it was the American version of the SL Mercedes that Cadillac was trying to compete with, and it just didn't do it. In fact, one went through the just most recent Kansas City Mecum auction for $2,200. I sold mine for $2,500. Um, I lost money on that. I paid $4,000 for it a year and a half before, and I sold it for $2,500. And so, you never can predict you predict that. So, um, with that said, the I did more research to see what Mercedes, the top 8 Mercedes that are the most collectible as of this last year. And some of them popped up on from the Haggerty 2019 list. The top 8: 1962 190 SL, 1964 the 600 Pullman. Well, they're so rare in the United States that I can see that. The 1970 280 SL Pagoda, no surprise. The 1992 500 SL with the AMG 6.0 package. Now, I don't know a lot about that one. That's an R129, and I don't know. I haven't seen one with the AMG package on that. The 1993 E500. This is on the W124 chassis. So this was a 5.0 liter engine that was stuffed in that 124, and I can see that because they're rare. There's very few of them. Most of those came out with the inline 6-cylinder engine, and the earlier versions, the 91, actually came out. Yeah, they all had the inline 6 for a good portion of them. The 2004 SLR McLaren, no surprise. 2014 SLS AMG Black Series. And again, these are modern cars. I don't pay attention to them. And then the 2021 AMG GT Black Series. Those are the cars that, according to sources out on the internet, are the most collectible. Now, I talked some time ago. Before I go to that topic, I went to another site and pulled up the top Mercedes models to invest in, which most of them come in the same, but I'll go through the list. And this is the only this one. This one really surprised me. It really did surprise me. And it's a U.S. model only, and it was only built for a little over 2.5 years. The 1978 to 1980 300 SD on the 116 chassis, and that's the U.S. and it was a U.S. only version. The average price for those to invest in right now is between $5,000 and $15,000. I find that interesting because, just that specific model years for that car. Now, I've got the 85 300 SD, but it doesn't have the luxury its that the 116 has, and the comfort of the 116. It was a little bit longer wheelbase chassis than its predecessor 126. I guess they're pretty much the same, but it's just the car was designed a little bit different. The next one to invest in is, and I don't know, it just came up, 1982 190E, which was the first year of the Baby Benz. Now, the 190E, the Baby Benz series, was built from 82 to 93, but the average price for those right now is going for $8,000 to $15,000. Now, just as a highlight, my father-in-law happens to have the 93, and it was one of the very last ones built. It's probably going to be coming up for sale sometime later this spring. He's ready to sell it because he's not supposed to drive much anymore, and and he's enjoyed the car. I started out with it, started to put, restore it, and then he had it completely stripped and repainted professionally. It looks just as like it was brand new. It's got 109,000 miles on it, and it's all original numbers matching. So it'll come up. It's probably going to come up for sale at some point. The next car is a 1967 280 SL Pagoda. Now the Pagoda, the one W113, was built between 63 and 70 year, but it's interesting that they specified the 67 280 SL. That's the first year of the 280 SL. Now those cars are bringing between $80 and $150,000. Now is the value of those going to continue upward? Because they're saying the top Mercedes models to invest in. So if you're paying 80,000, are you going to capitalize on that and double your money in the next 10 years? I don't know. We'll see what happens. The next one is the 1986 AMG Hammer, which is a W124 with a 5.6 liter V8 engine in it. Now, I've never seen one of these. They are saying that car is worth between $50,000 and $100,000. I cannot imagine. Well, first of all, we go back to my previous list where the W124 500E was on that. Was that on that previous list? I talked about that. Yeah. 1993. Yeah, E500. Same chassis. It's the W124, but this one's got the 5.6 liter. That's the same motor that's in my 560 SEL. So, a lot of. I've never seen one, and quite frankly, that'd be one fast car. The next one was on the previous list that's on the collectible, except they're saying the 1991 W124 E500. The other one saying that are the most collectible is the 93. So, but anything in that range is probably that 124 in the V8 engines is probably more collectible. They're saying between $50,000 and $100,000. Well, then we all know if you're a Mercedes follower or a Mercedes fanatic, the 1954 300 SL Goldwing. No surprise, 1 million to 1.5 million, and that can, and it can go up from there. Depending on how many original miles documented and all that good stuff. The next one's a supercar, 1997 CLK GTR. It's a 612 horsepower, top speed, 207 mile an hour, 6.9 liter V12 engine, $1.5 to $2.5 million. When you get into that category of cars, I just don't follow them, not interested. I don't care, I'm not a big supercar fan, not a big hypercar fan. I've never driven one, so I've never experienced it. But quite frankly, I would like to stick into the cars that I like currently. Now the next one I could consider one because I like the look of it is the 2003 SLR McLaren, 617 horsepower, 0 to 60 in 3.6 seconds. It's got a 5.4 liter supercharged V8. Excuse me. They're saying it's bringing between $250,000 and $400,000. But again, I'm not a big fan of the what I want to say the modern car eras and the supercars and the hypercars. But again, I've never experienced them, so if somebody wants to bring one and let me drive it, I would be happy to kind of get an idea what it's what it's all about. Now, that's the collectible side of things. I got one last thing regarding the collectibles. I found an article dated September 23rd, 2023 by Octo Classic of the ranking of the SLs, the SL ranking of the Mercedes SL. And this is kind of funny because, you know, I have two of them on this list, but of course these are the SLs. The fifth place on this list was the W121, 1955 to 1963. Okay, would I like one? Yeah, just to kind of complete the collection. But it's not my. They're not one of my favorites. Fourth place, I have one, R107, 1971 and 1989. Third place, which is surprising that they did, but it's ranked because it's they call it the New Millennium SL, is the R230, the 2002 to 2011. Okay, that that really that surprises me, but they got we're really in the five series, the five different models of the SL. Number two, ranked number two, is the W113, the 63 to 71, the Pagoda, which in the United States were very few imported, but they're getting fewer and far between. But that doesn't surprise me. But this one surprises me, is the ranked first for the SL, ranked by Octo Classic, is the R129, 89 to 2001. They call it the Great Rebirth. That's strange, right? So, is my 300 SL going to be worth something down the road? If I hang on to it long enough, we'll soon find out. Now, finally, and I've had so many emails, emails and there's been a few comments about, what are the most reliable Mercedes-Benz? And my buddy Tom, who, was the other half of the Idiot Car Guys, he's always been a fan of certain models of cars. Now, I've always liked the S-Class. I like the bigger sedans. I really like the comfort, except for the era that I call the bean counter era, which is the era right after the W140. That era, the 2002 S500, 2000, S600, S420, in that, or 430, in that era. I can't even think of the chassis, but that era is when the Mercedes in the S-Class, they put the power window controls way down on the door, and it just was not. It was not, to me, a driver-friendly car. It was not. You didn't feel part of the car. But the most reliable Mercedes-Benz, and I am going to agree with every one of these on this list, the 2008 and 2009 E-Class. And we're talking the E350s. That 3.5 liter engine is a superb engine. It's been a very good one for Mercedes. Very little maintenance, easy to work on. It's a good car. The 2009 SLK, 2010 C-Class, 2012 E-Class. So that's the next body change, but it's 1 year specific. And then this one really doesn't surprise me, because I actually like the car. It's an SUV, and that's the GLK. And it also goes back to that, the most popular engine in that is the 3.5 liter V6 engine. So there you go, folks. Which are the the most reliable? Well, even if you are if you can't afford a Mercedes-Benz, in the 4-year-old, go back a few years, go back 10, 12 years, and find yourself an E-Class that is in great shape. They also offered in that E-Series, in that era, 2008, 2009, in that era, they offered the diesel. Those you got 32 to 34 miles a gallon on the highway. They weren't the clean diesel like you got today, which you got the extra diesel exhaust fluid bull crap. But that's the way America's going. So, cost of ownership is probably a lot less on all of those. But if you want the comforts and the ride, then go with your S-Class. So, just thought I'd put this video out there as something to for everybody to chew on, and then with my project for the 280 SEL, looks like I'm gonna keep working at it, and there'll be another updated video on that project coming up maybe after this weekend. Hope you found this helpful, educational. If not, put your comments down below. Share this with your friends. I'll have some more informational videos along the way, because I can't just continue to focus on the project cars. It's winter, and so I spend more time inside than I'm going to do outside. So put your comments down below. Again, thanks for watching.